Welcome back. Is there a perfect housing storm brewing? Are there any kind of housing data that indicates that the housing market is about to crash? Well, let's dive deeper into this video presentation and let's find out. Again, this is SeeWing Yi from the Yi Real Estate Network. Welcome back. So let me go ahead and share my screen and go over the article by Housing Wire. And it says the headline is FHA loan delinquencies. That means Federal Housing Administration loan delinquencies. Is it a perfect storm brewing? Good question. So here's the article. Rising insurance and property taxes are lifting escrow costs while price declines in several high FHA concentration states increase negative equity risk. Combined with tighter FHA loss mitigation, the setup points to higher FHA defaults and foreclosure volume. All right, so the article goes on to say for most people, the foreclosure crisis is a distant memory. Yeah, I agree, right? The last housing crash occurs in 2008. We're almost 20 years ago, but a lot of people still have a lot of vivid memory. But the recent housing data does not indicate any high probability of a housing crash in 2026. But then again, who knows, right? Let's look at the data, right? Let's look at beyond the headline. So foreclosure activities recently in the past few years has been unusually low because of the potential moratorium and because of the COVID-19 pandemic situation. So the government stepped in and helped, especially for first-time home buyers such as FHA and other first-time home buyers as well. So, and then right now, since the pandemic, the foreclosure activity is still about 30% lower than it was in 2019. Okay. So with that said, the increased activity are driven by potential FHA portfolio of loans. This is the highest risk of consumer loan profile out there. You could make the argument that maybe the 0% down VA loan, those buyers as well, are pretty much in the same boat. And other primary home buyers who put very little down payment that have a little skin in the game, if you will, because the low down payment, they have very little equity, especially in the past few years of high mortgage rates and certain housing correction situation that has occurred, especially in the South and Southeast in the past 3 or 4 years. All right, so let's dive deeper into that. All right, so let's continue with this article. So in fact, before we begin, look, just because there's a 90-day or even 120 days loan delinquency does not necessarily mean those loans are going to into foreclosure. It takes, depending on state to state, the foreclosure timeline is very, very long. It drags out. Yeah, in states such as California, it take like 120 days before the lender start the foreclosure process, and even then it takes up to a year to go through the foreclosure timeline cycle. But we talk about in states such as in Texas or Florida, in the southeastern states, because it is a judicial state, if you will, judicial state, it takes forever to go through the foreclosure process, like a 1 to 2 year timeline, right? So again, just because someone are delinquent for 90 days, that does not at all is a clear indication that the foreclosure is about to happen. It's a long, drawn out process. Meanwhile, there's always some mitigation programs available out there by the government that can help to nip this situation in the bud. Also, the borrower have a lot of different options available, which I will to prevent foreclosure, which I will talk about for the rest of this video presentation. So now one would argue this potential FHA delinquency situation is the tip of the iceberg. Well, who knows, right? I mean, it might get worse in the months ahead. It might not, right? It all depends on a lot of factors, right? Employment factors, the economic crisis, and a lot of variables that we are not certain about moving forward into the latter part of 2026. So the question is in this article is there a perfect storm gaining steam and about to hit the pool of FHA loans? Good question. The storm clouds forming. FHA loans generally have higher delinquency and default rates than conventional loans because of the low down payment, right? 3.5%. Conventional loan is typically 20 to 25%, right? For primary home owner occupied buyers. So currently, there are 4.26% of all mortgage loans were in delinquency, but not in foreclosure at the end of 2025. Conventional loans had a near record low level of delinquency at 2.89% currently, while FHA loans were past due at a much higher rate as 11.52%, almost 12% of all the FHA buyers are delinquent 30, 60 to 90 days late. All right? All right, so let's continue. And then in April 2026, Mortgage Monitor, ICE, reported that severe delinquencies, loans 90 or more days past due or in foreclosure, have increased by 25% over the past 4 months only. So remains to be seen where this trend is going to go to. So rough seas ahead? Well, we don't know. So FHA borrowers, we need to start with the people with the less equity than conventional borrowers. Like I said, right? Low down payment. Now, in particular, think about it. The FHA buyers who purchased like in 2023, 2024, and 2025, the past 3 years, you might argue they purchased their homes at the top of the market. Of course, depending on what area of the country, right? Every location is different, right? Um, housing is local market. So yeah, and in some of those states like southeastern states like parts of Florida and parts of Texas, there has been, especially Austin, Texas, right, and Cape Coral, Southwest Florida, there are some realistic housing corrections, right, like 10-20% reduction of prices. If those FHA buyers who bought in the past 3 years with low down payment and their homes they purchased 4 years ago have dipped in value, we combine the low down payment, 3.5% down payment FHA, with the dip in value of the prices, then you might see some distress situation going on with the FHA homeowners, right? In addition, what if those homeowners have some job situation? That's the key, right? If they lose their job or something like that, it'll the the shit is gonna hit the fan, right? So high concentration, high risk, like we said, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, the southern states, okay, have more of a percentage of FHA loans or under distress or late, like okay, like states like Oklahoma, Mississippi, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, and New Mexico, Nevada, Arizona, Tennessee, and South Carolina, and Kentucky. So pretty much Sun Belt states, pretty much. The Midwest and the Northeast has weathered the housing storm better in the past 2 years. You could make the argument that in those areas of the country, they are doing well, right? They have not lost any value, to my knowledge, for the most part, in the Midwest and in the Northeast. Okay. So we stated falling home prices since the market peak in 2022 are partially to blame. So according to the Zillow data, that's 53 locate locations in according to Zillow in the state in the South and Southeast have a high percentage of FHA loans. So furthermore, to make matters even worse, Quartality reports that rising insurance premiums and property taxes have caused escrow payments to soar by 45% nationally since 2019. Okay. So and they now account for over 40% of monthly mortgage payments. In many markets, in 10% of the markets, escrow payments are higher than the borrower's principal and interest payments. Wow, that is quite severe, don't you think? I mean, it's high enough you have to pay your mortgage, principal and interest. When you add on the taxes, the higher property taxes, the higher insurance costs, and the higher maintenance costs of a particular homeowners. I mean, most people living paycheck to paycheck. So that could really, if a loss of a job situation were to occur, now the labor data still looks good, right? The unemployment data is still pretty low. So that's the only saving grace, in my opinion. But again, those FHA borrowers are right now stand the highest risk of distress, delinquency, as opposed to other homeowners. A lot of homeowners, but believe it or not, let me take a step back, right? It's not all bad news. Do you know the 40% of the homeowners in the country, 40% of the homeowners, they have no mortgage. They are free and clear. And 80% of all the homeowners that have mortgages, they have mortgages of less than 6%. And 25% of all the mortgages in the country are have mortgage of lower than 4%. So most of the homeowners who own a home 5, 6, 7 years or longer, they have a very strong equity position. In fact, there are 13 trillion with a T in equity of all the homes in the US. So people are equity rich, okay? Most of the people. Just so you know. So there are always two sides of the coin, right? It all depends on how you look at the data. All right. So we have more equity than ever before in the history of America for those homeowners that purchase a while back and they hold their house for the long term. All right. So here's my conclusion. So in the for those of us in the real estate industry, opportunities with FHA borrowers who can there's a lot of mitigation options for those people in distress. If they have a little bit of equity left, they could sell their homes. In the worst case scenario, okay, if someone lose their job or something, they could sell their house to prevent foreclosures if they have enough equity, or maybe they're upside down in the houses. Maybe the mortgage balance is higher than the value of the home. If they need to sell and under heavy distress, then they have to sell using a short sale situation. They can still do it, right? Or they can work out the FHA distress borrower. They could work it out. They can find some kind of mitigation program, some of the government or local county government program that could defer the payments and not risk loss of their homes. So there's a lot of mitigation programs out there still available. You can, all right, or so those are issues. So to conclude, this FHA delinquency is just a small data sample that may get worse down the road. It all depends on the economy, on the employment numbers, the economic uncertainty, the Iran war, the AI, challenges. People, are fearful of their jobs, and and high cost of living, inflation, and you have the oil crisis and gas prices going higher. So people are living paycheck to paycheck anyway. So FHA buyers, yes, there was more delinquencies, okay, 90 days, even 120 days. But to have a 2008 foreclosure crisis, housing crash, based on the FHA situation as a standalone issue, no, is we're not close to having another housing crash, but it's a sign, it's a trend that could reverse, that could get worse. We don't know. This is just a one small economic matrix on the overall big scheme of in the housing industry. So with that in mind, please comment below what do you think. Any part of my presentation you agree, disagree, or have some additional opinions, please comment below. And finally, if you receive any value whatsoever from this video, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And finally, if you have not already done so, please put your email on my website so you can become a free member of my real estate investing community. So every week you receive free content, free emails into your email inbox to talk about housing economic news, investment opportunities as an income property potential owner, the whole 9 yards. All right. With that in mind, this is SeeWing Yi. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Have a nice day. Bye bye.